Yes, yes.
My question is about you talked about the fundamentalist scholars, if you can call them that. My question is, even though they might, like yourself, where you may have had sort of this wall in front of you before you kind of peel back the layers, how is it possible for some of these folks to claim to be biblical scholars where they study ancient Greek or Hebrew to continue on like that for 20, 30, 40 years? Are they not introduced to some of the same evidence that you see?
Are you talking about fundamentalists, or are you talking about just other biblical scholars?
Well, fundamentalists primarily.
Yeah, fundamentalists. Yeah, no, I'll tell you. I mean, the thing about fundamentalism is that it's a completely coherent system internally. It's an internally coherent system. And it's a closed system. So if you've got a closed system that's internally coherent, it's very hard to make any inroads into it. And so since it's internally coherent, and since there is such a very strong social fabric keeping it together, you can't convince a fundamentalist that he or she's wrong. You just can't do it. You can point to any contradiction in the Bible, and it just doesn't matter. They'll just say either they'll figure some way to reconcile it, or they'll say, well, I just believe that, even though I don't understand, God does understand. And so there's just no inroads. I had a student this semester, a lovely young woman who was just a flat-out fundamentalist in my New Testament class that just ended last week. In my class, I require every student in class to engage in a class debate in their small group recitation. So the class itself is 250 students, but every student is in a 20-person recitation. And everybody in that recitation has to be involved in a debate. And the debates are on controversial topics. The first debate is, resolve the Apostle Paul's views of women were oppressive. That debate, I used to call that debate, the resolution used to be, resolve the Apostle Paul was a misogynist. But I realized after a while that some of my students didn't know what misogynist meant, and that led to some very interesting debates. The second debate is resolved, Paul and Jesus represented fundamentally different religions. The third debate is resolved, the New Testament condemns modern practices of homosexuality. So some students have to argue affirmative, some have to argue negative on both of these. This woman was assigned to argue that the New Testament does not condemn modern practices of homosexuality. She refused to do it. She would flunk the class rather than argue against her faith. Jeez, you got to be kidding me. I've taught 20,000 students. I've never had a student refused. I said, look, you're not arguing you think this. You just have to argue what other people think. No, I refuse. I'm not going to do it. Jeez. So I made her write a 20-page term paper instead. But after the course is over, she wrote me an email 2 days ago. Dr. Ehrman, I'm praying for you, and I just pray that you'll see Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And I wrote her back, and I said, thank you. I really appreciate that. I hope that you will pursue the truth no matter where it takes you. I'm just thinking maybe in 5 years she writes back, no, you don't understand. I'm praying that you'll understand that Jesus. Okay, whatever, yeah. Right. I just don't think there's any way inroad, really. Yeah.